Okay, let's go live. It's James speaking, trainingsites.io. I did a video yesterday about Opal. And again, if you don't know about it, I'll make sure to put the link below. But basically, opal.withgoogle.com is a mini app creator, and it's a really cool tool that lets anyone who is not technical, who doesn't want to learn all of the fancy AI automation tools where you're connecting all sorts of things together. You're just someone that knows how to explain what it is that you want, and you want a mini app created to complete that task so you can hand it off. Well, I'm going to show you a real simple way to do this from scratch. If you're not technical, but you do understand, or even if you need a little bit of help, being able to explain a task that you can hand off to your own AI employee. What am I talking about? Well, let's take a look. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create one from scratch, a special trick. And I'm also going to show you all the different things that you can do in terms of content, user content that you can give your mini app, all of the different things that Gemini that works on your content can do, all of the tools that are available, and then also the different ways that you can actually have your mini app output. Now you have to remember that Opal is experimental still. It's from Google. The link is only available in the States. And again, this is something that people have been playing with for the last little while. And I think it's important specifically if you're starting, building, growing an education business and you have specific tasks that you don't like doing, but you know need to be done. And it's something that you would love to give an AI employee and basically have that taken care of. Now, I'll do a quick recap on some of the ones I did earlier, and then we'll look at the blank canvas if you want to create one for yourself. And then I'm going to show you a trick on how to create one from scratch, but not really create it. So let's take a look at some of the other ones that I put together. And again, this is opal.withgoogle.com. And these are some of the ones that I built in the last day since I did that video. The one thing that I want to tell you, and the reason I'm doing the second one, is basically what I did, and this is a cool part, is these are a bunch of opals. I guess they're opals. It's in Gemini, in the actual Gemini app. This opal shows up in the gem section, which are kind of like their custom GPTs. So they call them opals, and basically they're mini apps. I think they're going to be mini agents, but right now they're calling it mini apps. And they have a whole bunch of them that they did as examples. And the one that I started off with was this one that's called Learning with YouTube. And the ones I showed yesterday, basically what I did is I just see where it says remix. I basically duplicated it and then made a little change and asked it to do something a little bit different in or using the same input. And the input, learning with YouTube, what it had was my input was a YouTube URL, and the Gemini that did the work on it basically used the transcript and then in this case created a quiz, the test one. What I did is I said, you know what? There's other things that I would like from the YouTube transcript that I have on all of the 500 videos that I've done. And some of the examples were, I just want to create posts for my community. So I need to get people engaged and adding their own user generated content to the community. What I want to do is I want to have a mini app that allows me to just give a YouTube video. It will go and get the transcript and it will create posts for my community. That was one that I created. Another one was creating use cases from a video. So let's say I'm doing a live stream, I'm working on something specifically with someone. I need an analogy or a way to be able to explain it and then get people to apply it or implement it in a use case, identify what needs to be done, issues. I wanted use cases put together, so I create one for that. I did one for a quote creator. I did one for a summary. I did a whole bunch of them. It took me 10 minutes, basically 2.5 minutes each. And they're pretty straightforward because I started from a fresh one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, you know what? Maybe there's not one here. Maybe I want to create my own right from the get-go. And the thing that I'm excited about these mini apps that get created is if you were part of this at the start and you watch that video, this allows regular people, non-technical, allows us to create, edit, and share. So these are just some of the ones that they've been put out by the Opal team. I actually shared some of the ones that I created that everyone else can use. So I think there's a whole ecosystem being put together here. That's another story for another time. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to click Create New. I'm going to show you the interface, how it works, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to click Create New. Remember, this is only available in the States, and it's experimental. Experiment. It's not available everywhere. However, what I suspect when we look at this is you're going to see that like everything that Google is doing on the Gemini side, on the hardware side, on the workspace side, Gemini is going to be woven through everything, and all of the tools are going to be available within anything that's using Gemini. Everything is going to be all connected. So we've got the canvas here. When I showed you the ones yesterday, there was already a mini app created. This time there is no mini app created. This is a blank canvas, and we have two choices. The first one is we can just put a description of what we want and let Opal go and do all of the work. On the other hand, we can go to the top here and we can see that there's 4 different nodes that we can add. We're going to talk about 3 today. So we have the user input. So what do you want the user to give to the app to get started? Then generate is what do we want Gemini to do with that input? And then output is what are you going to output it as? What are you going to provide Gemini? What is it going to provide after doing all of this massaging, synthesizing, any of that process or workflow that was put together in the app? So that's the stuff that's here on the canvas side. I got a blank canvas right now. On the right-hand side is where you actually see the mini app as it's being built. And you'll notice that there's a progress bar here. So it lets you know when it's running, where it is in the steps. And while it's running, you can look at the console, which shows what Gemini is actually doing through the process. You can select step, which is grayed out because we don't have any steps here. And then you can select theme, which changes the way that it looks. So let's get started, see what happens. The one that I did before, I had an existing one here, an existing Opal, and I just said, describe what you want to build. I just said, edit this step and do this instead, and it did it for me. But in my case, I'm going to get started fresh. So first thing I need to do is say, what do I need to give my mini app to get it started? So I'm just going to click user input, and I end up getting this node here. Now you'll notice that any of the user inputs have a yellow background, okay? And I can put one of these up, and you'll notice when I select it, the right-hand side, the step is now available, and it also shows the user input. So I can change this to add the document URL because that's what I'm going to be asking the user to do. And you'll notice when I click away from it, the app has come up, it's previewed, and you can also see add the URL as the title, and it's marked as empty. So what's the prompt you're going to do here? So I did the give me the URL of the video. What are the other options that are available? Well, if you look at the screen here, and it's tiny at the bottom, so hopefully you can see it. There's one that says, I don't know if can I move it up? No. There's one here that says advanced settings. So the example I use, it was taking the URL of the YouTube video, creating a transcript. So the input was the URL of the video. What are the other options? Just click advanced settings, and you can see that there's all sorts of stuff we can add. I just, by default, it shows any, but there's audio, so it's an MP3 file. Is it an image that I'm uploading? Is it a block of text? Is it a file that I'm uploading, or is it a video? So we can give it all of these inputs for Gemini to work on in the next step. Now, the other thing is I have one input here. If I need to, right mouse click, duplicate section. So if I wanted to, I could go add a second one. In this particular one, I might change and say, add the text block. And on this one, I might add text. So now I have 2, add the document URL, add the text block. And I can put as many inputs as I want, and those are the things that are required for that mini app to run. Now, one of the questions I got from people was, is there a trigger for this, like an AI automation like N8N or Lindy or some of the other ones? In this experimental version, no, there is not. However, I would suspect that is coming when we start taking these mini apps and start chaining them together. Right now, it's a single mini app. I suspect that's what's going to be added later. The reason I suspect that is because Google has a tool called A2A, which is agent to agent, which is similar to Anthropic's MCP, Model Context Protocol, which allows a large language model tool like Gemini, like OpenAI, like Claude talk to tools. That agent to agent protocol is one that says, here's an agent, talk to another agent and transfer whatever you need. So you're going to complex processes. So I think that's actually what's going to happen, and why we can have different inputs, but with that input, we need to have what happened. Yeah, absolutely. We need to have something that happens as a result, or we have to generate something. So I'm going to open this one up now so you can see it. We've got these kind of pieces here. I'm going to get rid of one because I don't want to use it. I'm just going to delete it. And again, we can have as many of these as we want, but I need to generate something as a result of it. So I'm just going to click generate, put it here. And in my case here, to generate, this is Gemini. So basically, this is the Gemini AI tool, the one from Google. And if I click it, you can see how they get highlighted. And on the right-hand side, it changes colors when I pick it. So in Generate, this is the one where you put your prompt. You're giving some instructions to Google Gemini to say, hey, this is exactly what I want you to do. And the part that is interesting here for us, and again, thinking this through a little bit longer, again, this just came out last month, 30 days ago, I think. We have the option of what tool do we need to work on whatever was added. So imagine for a second I uploaded a video file, or I uploaded a description of some text, a description of a picture that I wanted, or I was describing some music that I had an idea for. You can look here and you can see there's a whole bunch of different models of Gemini that are available to us. Gemini Flash, which you're familiar with, Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is the reasoning model of Gemini Flash, Plan and Execute. So this one is really good at thinking through the steps that need to be followed in a process. Deep Research, which is one that's available with Gemini normally. Imagine generates images from text. Flash image generator, so it's images from text and images, putting them together and manipulating them. Audio, text to audio. Video, text to video. And Lyra, which is actually text to instrumental music. So these are all of the different models that are available to this node right here. So in my case, I can just pick Flash, which is the default one. And by default, if we were to do that one in the bottom here where we're actually filling in the block, Gemini would figure out which model to use. But because we're doing manually, hey, we can actually do that. Now, there's a couple other things here just to notice. If we needed to, this prompt is where we can put a prompt on what it is that we want to have done, or we want Gemini to do to the input that it was given in this mini app. Now, there's a couple things to notice. First one is that we have a toolbox on the right. The toolbox says, what do we want to have accessible as a tool to this step of the Opal? And that can be the results of a web search. It could be maps, could be a web page, or the weather. Now, these tools are the only ones available right now. However, if you can imagine what is available in Gemini right now, 2.5, the entire work suite from Google, Calendar, Drive, Docs, Sheets. So right now, these are the tools available. I would suspect that as this gets a little more mature, they get some feedback. We're going to have a whole list of tools that are available for Gemini to actually work with when it's using whichever one of these particular tools is there. So now we've got an input from the user. We've got some kind of Gemini action or activity that uses the model that we want and also gives us access to some tools. And we have to put a prompt in here and try and figure out what it is that we want to do. Now, this is just a very, very simple one, right? I'm going to show you a trick in a moment. But the idea here is that you can start, creating these inputs and then start connecting them together. so that now we've got it connected. And you'll notice that when I connected them together, we've got add the document URL. I'm giving the document URL here. I'm going to click it, and I'm just going to say, post the URL of the document. I'm going to click that. Now notice it says here, post the URL of the document, and it's got used in this step. What's used? It's used this input. If I had another input, and in this one I just put place the box of text, and I just went in. Right now it says any, but I might be able to do it, so I'm just going to put text. So we've got paste the block of text, and we've got the add the document URL, and I'm going to connect those ones together. Now watch what happens. Now I've got the text pasted and the document URL. So these inputs are now available to Gemini when it does some particular work. Now I didn't add what I wanted it to do, but these are the things that are available. I didn't put any prompt in. There is an advanced setting here, which is one that is generic. And I think what they're trying to do is say, hey, try and sound a little more authentic. We can put whatever we want here. And the other one that's interesting here, it says right at the bottom, review with user. So you can put a human in the loop step here, right? We don't have one here. We're just leaving it blank so I can see the workflow and get to the little hack around all of this. But we've got input, generate. What's next? We need to have output. So I'm going to put this one here just so we have a little more room on the screen. And if I highlight this one, you can see it's green, and I have some outputs available to me. Now, in the previous ones that I showed yesterday when I did them, when I was actually creating the other ones, it was a web page that was created. However, I'm not limited to that. One of them is I can give a layout in terms of instructions and basically give the instructions here. Or what I can do is say, you know what? What I want is a web page that is laid out and designed by you, but maybe I want to save it to a Google Doc. Maybe I want to save it to a Google Slide. Maybe I want to save it to a Google Suite. This is where I think we're also going to see all of the other tools that are available within the Google ecosystem, allowing us to pass it on to another tool from the labs or from AI Studio. Maybe it's going to be from with MCP to another completely piece of software that's not Google's. These are the ones that are available now. So in this case, I might say put it to docs, and I'd put instructions as to, create a well-formatted, whatever normal prompt you would use to output something, we can add it here. Now there's two other ones on the right-hand side. You can see there's a toolbox again. I don't think there's anything that's appropriate there. I'm going to leave it blank. And then there's a wizard, is an edit to the prompt. So if we have a prompt in, we're just going to hit the little wand, the wizard wand, and it will hopefully clean it up a little bit more. And advanced settings are the ones where we can just put a Google Doc title here. And I'm just going to put title goes here. Okay, so I've got these pieces, but it's not connected. So I'm just going to make sure it's connected. And now we've got generate, and this is actually what's happening is the results of this are being brought here, and then it's going to be ready for output. Now, we're looking at this and I'm going, okay, cool, that's kind of neat, but it's an app, I get it. What does it look like? Well, we can adjust a couple things here. First one is there is a theme available. This is very basic to get started, and there is no control over the color, but there is control over the title of the app, not the title of the document, the title of the app, and the little theme for it. So I can just say, we'll say, just because it's there, Claymation Cats, and I'm just going to click it, and it's going to go and generate one for me. I also have the option just do a random one. I'm just going to leave it for our Claymation Cats, and you can see it. Well, it's working in the background. And then the other thing is up in the top left-hand corner, if you can see where it says Untitled Opal app, it also says Untitled Opal app here. So I'm just going to go and say My Mini App. And it changes to My Mini App. It's still running in the background here, so it's going to come up with some image. Hopefully that is one that makes sense for my app. Cats and claymation are not it. However, we'll come back to that in a second to show you. So I've created a mini app. I have an input. I have Gemini doing some stuff. I have an output. There's some other neat stuff. There we go. See how it changed? My mini app is there, and we've actually got the cat claymation. It changed the interface for us. So there's the theme editor. It's done. We've now got our mini app put together. Now there's a couple things I just want to show you here before I get to the next one. Here's the important one. If I go to Share App, I can now share the app that I built either as a private one. If I give it to someone else who has the link, they can use my mini app, or I can make it public and available to everyone in a gallery of apps. This is going to be really interesting because I think what's going to happen here as they kind of extend this, we're going to have a directory of shareable mini applications that can either be sold and or given to customers or provided to students or built into courses or classes. Whatever we're doing, we now can create these mini apps on the fly, drop dead simple, that create a specific result from a specific input without us having to be involved if we choose that. So there's the one, a mini app that allows us to share the app, and we can make it as private or public. And it gives you a little bit of stats on what that means or what that doesn't mean. But these are available to you. There is the copy link. So this one's private, but I can just give that link to someone who has a Google account, and they're going to have access to it. So no hosting. We don't have to figure out all of that stuff that you sometimes do with N8N or some of the other tools where you can publish them. This one is just a link, just like sharing a document. It's there and it's available. Now, the other one I just want to show you quickly is, you see where it says the star up here, status update, labs Discord, watch video that is there. This is all pretty straightforward stuff that makes it drop dead easy to create them on the fly. Now, having said that, I created 5, 6 of these in a couple minutes. What's the fastest way to create one when you're really not sure what it is that you need the Gemini part in the middle to do, but you know what it is that you want, and you know what it is that you have available to provide the mini app? Well, this is the best way to do it, in my opinion. For example, for me, I had one where I was just going, you know what? I have a lot of people who are asking about how do I use the Fluent Community software. And I went to Fluent Community, and that's the plugin on WordPress that runs all of our campuses, runs the community part, the basic LMS, the leaderboard, the members, all the spaces and groups. It's all Fluent Community. And Fluent Community has a really, really detailed document library of all of the things that are about that piece of software. Now, I'm using a piece of software. If you are looking at any place where there are documents, maybe it's a PDF book that you're using. I'm just using documents. But if you added a PDF or a document file or gave it something to work on as an input, that works as well. But what I did is I said, here's the docs from this piece of software. What I would really like is I want my mini app to go and take a look at all of these documents, figure out which are the important ones based on what most people would be searching for in terms of an answer. And then what I want my mini app to do is actually go and build out the syllabus and the talking points and the lessons from this particular document library. So I said, you know what? I would love to make that, but I have no idea how to prompt it. So what I did is I went to Google Gemini. I'm using 2.5 Pro here. And what I did is I basically explained what it is that I wanted done. And I said, hey, this is what I want to do. I want you to create the instructions for Opal. So I just went in and picked out, asked it that, and it basically spit out the course curriculum architect. This tool is for a software educator or a marketing team member who needs to create a complete training course for a complex software plugin like da 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 da. Here's my input, the root URL of the documentation site. That's exactly the same one as I showed you. It was a URL, but I could have pasted in a PDF or uploaded a PDF or a document, or I could have uploaded a file directly or a podcast. I could have done anything, remember? This one is just for the docs. Now, I gave it some, I wanted to make sure that it looked through all of the documents, figured out which are the right ones, and then put something together based on what people would want to know. So that's exactly what it came up with. It's going to crawl and map. So systematically visit every link within the documentation, creating a map of all the features and sub-features. This was the important one, reframe as user goals. So yes, there's a bunch of docs there, but what I wanted it to do is take a look at it and apply user questions or goals from wanting to go and look at a portion of the doc. So figuring out how can I show or hide a field based on a user's answer to a previous question as opposed to conditional logic. So it figures out which of the kind of technical terms are the ones relating to something that someone would ask. And then I also had key concepts, so pull out the terms so that the user must learn and able to have a thorough understanding of all of the pieces and parts of this particular plugin, and then structure into a curriculum so it is organized by reframe questions and a logical learning path. And then what I want is I want a syllabus and FAQs or lessons plan. So I put this together with Gemini 2.5 Pro, and what I did is I just copied it. I didn't create the prompt myself. I didn't muck around with any of that stuff. I just wanted it done for me. And what happened was that I created a new Opal, and all that I did in this case is I pasted the prompt into the bottom, and I ended up getting my Opal made for me. So I didn't use the inputs at the top. I didn't muck around with that. I don't know enough of that stuff, don't want to learn about it, don't need to learn about it. I just want an app that is built quickly that does a specific task so that I can take a couple minutes to do it. So I wrote that prompt, or I had Gemini write that prompt in a couple minutes, and all I did was paste it in here, and I got a mini app created for me that does a specific task. What does it do? Enter the doc. So it's basically saying in this one, enter the documentation URL. So I put it in. And then what it does is it analyzes the text and it gives the access to search the web, search maps, get web page, get weather. And it's basically an input the following documentation URL, and it has some instructions. I didn't write these. All I did is I pasted stuff here at the start. Gemini, when I did this, it automatically put this node here. The next thing it needs to do is extract the structured information, which is what was from the Gemini prompt I created. It did that. Put a node together for generate the course syllabus. There's the prompt for putting the syllabus together. Again, all of the stuff that was done generated by Opal. I gave the original instructions here from Gemini. The Opal tool is building out the process or the steps Gemini needs to do. And then at the end, I said, you know what? I want to generate a document that has this kind of stuff. It's formatted in this kind of way. Again, I didn't prompt this, and I chose manual layout, web page, or save to Google Docs, or slides, or sheets. These are the ones that are available. I want Google Docs. And at the bottom, I have the option to say, what's the Google Doc title? Just going to give it that particular title, and I'm now there. And I've got the pieces there. I've got a different plugin. I've got a preview. I'm basically ready to go with this particular one. So if I go back and we'll go and look at the app here, I'll open it up, enter the root of the URL for the documentation site, and it will actually go and run the entire process. Now, at the end of this takes a long time to actually go because I had a big particular one. So let me just refresh it so you can see what actually happens here. There we go. Let's make sure we're in the right place here. There we go, preview. Enter the root documentation. We can share the output. This is the one that was interesting, and then we can download the file. So when we have the document, we can actually download the file after and then take it and do whatever we want with it. So this is a real easy way to create mini apps as quickly as you want for whatever task that you don't want to be involved in. And it's ones that I think are going to be connected together in terms of these multiple apps chained together. And the one that is absolutely astounding to me that I've looked at Lovable, Bolt, V.0. There's a whole bunch of them that create apps that are all connected to databases and authentication, all these other things. This is a simple way to create throwaway mini apps that can be spun up in a couple seconds for any particular instance. If you were doing a live webcast or a Zoom call, if you're doing a live session, a live training with someone, you could basically go to Gemini, create a prompt, spin up an app, and you've now got one on your desktop to share with everyone about whatever task. These are on the fly, throwaway mini apps. I'm super excited about this entire space, the ability for us to start, build, and grow education businesses using these AI agents. And I think avatars moving forward and nested agents, throwaway agents, this is a super exciting time. So if this makes sense to you, what I'd like you to do is one thing. Think about all the stuff that you just don't like doing, but you know still needs to be done. Make a list of it. Make a list of all of those things that take away from what you're passionate about. That's the first thing. Second thing is go play with these tools. Play around with them and try and figure out what works, what doesn't work. What are the other things that are possible for my business? What are the other ways that I can leverage AI and make myself more available and more effective providing the transformation that is what I'm promising to the people I'm trying to help. So like and subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. That really helps. And then also put comments in. Let me know if you have questions, if you have examples, be able to share that stuff. And again, if you haven't already, the link is below to my community and campus. I'd love to see you there. All of these videos, prompts, everything are there. They're available for free. This is James speaking, trainingsites.io. Take care and expect the best.